Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome. It's the 1925 and Beyond podcast again. I am your host, Pete A. Kennedy. I'm here with my co-host, big brother Marlon A. Kennedy. And again, we have a special guest right out of North Street. This guest is so special that she wears the purple and white so radiantly that, a matter of fact, it's not my part to do that. But let me give you my credit. My credit is I went to Kingston College between the years of 1992 to 1995. Played Colts 93, 94, won 94, moved on to Manning Cup 95, and then the rest was history. Let me turn it over to my big brother, Marlon A. Kennedy.
Thank you, Pete. Welcome, everybody, to 1925 and beyond. Now that we have gotten past the more sober part of the episode, we're going to get into things more exciting now.
I agree.
So I myself attended Kingston College 1986 to 1993 and played cricket at all levels and captain at all levels. But today I'm really, truly excited to have another one of our guests today. I call her the elusive Madame Quallo, and I've told her why, but it's a pleasure to have her.
Yes,
we had to take the true KC approach to get Madame Quallo to respond promptly. We first interviewed VP Brown.
Yes,
and told him, say, VP Brown, you've been here, you see how nice it is, get Madame Quallo for me. The man said, don't worry, Fortis, I have it locked. And seconds after that, I was on the phone with Madame Quallo. And here we are.
The following day, as a matter of fact. So let's make sure we clear that up.
Madame Quallo, good day and welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, Chris is my friend. We were rookies together. So it's so nice for us to have grown up here as teachers and serving together as VPs. Yeah. So yeah, Chris is my long time friend.
He did state that. And it's a pleasure. So he said that he does cherish the friendship that you have and you have all grown up. So
absolutely.
he believes he has that power of influence, which he has proven.
He certainly does.
And we appreciate that.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. The only difference is that disappointingly, Chris had his wife put him together in a light blue shirt, which is Fortis-like, and he's going to pay for that dearly. So we appreciate
going to pay for that dearly.
We appreciate your attire today, Madame Quallo.
Yes.
It may not be purple. It look maroonish, burgundish, but I think the beauty lies within, which is more purpose-spirited than anything else.
That is right.
So, Madame Quallo, in true form, we ask our guests to just take us on that journey and give us your story and tell us all about yourself. And let's start before Kingston College.
Oh, so you want us to start before? Well,
just a little, as much as possible. Yeah.
The issue with that is I have been here since the age of 4 years old. That's yes.
4 years old? Oh, that's interesting. Start there then.
That's where I think we should
Please.
start. So my mother joined the staff in 1976. And I've been here ever since.
So you've been in and around coming on the campus at an early age.
Yes, I've been here since the age of 4. Of course, obviously, I could not come here to school, but my brothers did.
As try as hard as you may.
No, I was happy at St. Hugh's. It's just down the street.
Even better.
Yes.
Even better.
Yes.
That's good. We can work with that.
Yes.
So, of course, mommy is here. So I would come up after school and so on. My brothers were here. And yes, and then I joined the staff in January 1998.
1998. So how many brothers you had and how many came to KC?
Both brothers came to KC. My father is also an old boy, and my mother worked here from 1976 to 1989.
But then Madame Quallo, I should be at your feet now because you have more Fortis rich blood than me.
Exactly. And than many others we've interviewed.
This is deep, man. That is good. So at St. Hugh's, because we want to touch that part of it as well, Madame Quallo, your time at school. So tell us what your story as to what led you down the path to go into teaching? What was it like? What were the subjects or the teachers that probably influenced you at St. Hugh's?
Wow. So teaching, I got bitten by the bitten by the mosquito of teaching, let me say. Because I was really bitten because I never thought I'd ever
Yeah.
be a teacher. But
Mhm.
I ended up, after coming back from France, I spent a year in France and I came back to Jamaica and just answered a simple ad in the paper for a French teacher to teach at Camperdown High School, which is where I started under the guidance of one of my mentors, Cynthia Cook, who was the principal at the time. And I really, really enjoyed teaching there. I enjoyed teaching French there. And that's when I was bitten by the bug, the teaching bug. Mhm.
Well, that's good to hear. So you went to Teachers College prior to that, or it's just
No,
okay?
no. I went to Camperdown, but it was short-lived because I got an opportunity to do a master's in French in the United States.
Okay.
So I went there for about 2 years, and I was actually coming back to go to Camperdown, but unfortunately, she did not have a vacancy in January. And guess which school just happened to have a clear vacancy in the odd month of January?
Then Madam Hall, that can be unfortunate,
Yeah,
Madam
yeah,
Hall. That's not
yeah.
unfortunate. That's how
That's
that's how
destiny.
the gods set the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So that was good. That was
You
good.
just called me Madam Hall a while ago. It
So
happens
my
all the
apologies,
time.
Madam Quayle. I
Happens
apologize.
all the time. I'm used to it.
But yes.
Right. So Miss
Mhm,
Douglas, of course, Miss Douglas, my mom and Miss Douglas are still friends to this day.
mhm,
So then, by then, my mom would have at the time, herself and Mr. Johnson, who was the principal at the time.
mhm,
And Mr. Johnson, of course, I grew up with him being my second dad.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
So, right, so she called my mom and said, how is Karyn? Would she be able to join us? And I said, why, of course. So January 14, 1998, I stepped in, I got my stuff, and I
Mhm.
was on staff.
So where did you start? You started at the Melbourne campus,
I started at North
North
Street,
Street.
and then I went to Melbourne, and I was at Melbourne for a long, 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 long time. I was grade 7 coordinator, grade 9 coordinator, I was also the dean of student affairs over that campus. And then I became head of department, some big shoes to fill, boy. I tell you,
Mm-hmm.
Douglas and Lilith Barnaby was a very nerve-wracking time for me. But when I got to that position, I still taught on both campuses. And then, of course, I was promoted to vice principal. But when I got the vice principal, I was vice principal at Melbourne first.
Okay.
That was
So
me
so
learning the job.
so for those who don't understand, because we understand being the coordinator, the different grades, but you were also responsible for student affairs. What were your responsibilities
Okay.
as student affairs?
So the Dean of Student Affairs at the time dealt with student affairs. So we're talking about discipline and academics for the most part. Okay? Making sure that students adhere to rules and regulation, documenting all punishments for the ministry, and of course, documenting the academics and the excellence for incentive.
Nice. So how long after um, from you started at KC to you becoming VP at the Melbourne campus?
After becoming dean,
No, between starting at KC to
In 1998.
yeah, you started in 98. So just walk us through the years. So you started in 98 at KC. When did you become Dean of Affairs and when did you become VP at Melbourne?
So I I started in 98, and in 2006 I received the Dean of Student Affairs promotion.
Mhm.
And then I was coordinator between I was dean up to 2011, and then I was coordinator from 2011 to 2015, and then 2015 I was promoted to head of the French department.
Okay.
And then between 2015 and 2022, I was promoted to vice principal.
Nice. So that's good. So I can understand that with the coordinator and dean of affairs, with those sort of responsibilities, it is very administrative. But
Right.
once you get to the role of VP on the Melbourne campus, that delves a lot into your leadership aspect of things. And also being head of the department. How did you approach that in terms of your leadership style?
Okay, the one thing I tried well, being a coordinator, you also have leadership because you are in charge of form teachers and so on and so on. So from dean all the way through to VP, the one thing I like to do in terms of my leadership style is to try to be as fair as I can as the rules and regulations will allow. Okay. And so I really get in touch with that rule book, both the ministry's rule book, our rule book. I learn it, I understand it. But you try to also balance that with people's lives, people's experiences. Sometimes you can be as lenient as you can, and sometimes you're just gonna have to toe the line.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's going to have even more of an impact, a negative impact. You understand what I'm saying? So I try my best to do that balancing act. It's not an easy balancing act at all. You know, being in those other leadership roles is a little easier, but coming to vice principal, it's even tougher. But you do your best, you know what I mean? And you hope in the end persons can actually see and appreciate it.
Yep.
And another point as well, when you get up into that office and your responsibilities, what is your interaction with your when it comes to dealing with aspects of, because it's not only students now, you're now dealing with PTA and parents and everything. How do you manage those relationships?
Okay, well, a lot of those relationships we have from before, because even when I was a form teacher, you deal with parents. In any one of the positions, you have to deal with parents, students, and teachers, and so on. I deal with I deal with all the groups in all scenarios. So you have negative scenarios and you have positive scenarios. Okay. The parents, I tend to try to be as understanding as I can. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. The parenting has changed significantly since I was a rookie. All right. Back in the day, the parents trusted the school more. I find now that the parents tend to be very skeptical. I'm not sure if it's a generational situation, and they tend not to trust us as we would like them to trust. Sometimes they can be just downright adversarial and just against us. And we have to really stand up as a school to maintain certain standards. I can tell you the grooming rule right now is one of our hot button points. And, our headmaster is clear, and I support him on that we are going to go down with the ship as it relates to how boys are groomed for school. So that's one of the things that we will have some kind of a tiff about. But for the most part, we get along with our parents, we support them as best as we can, and we encourage them to support the students. Our students, we love our students, no matter how you're rude, no matter how you're bad, no matter what. We love our students. We push hard. When I was at Melbourne, it was nurturing, refining. Coming in from prep and primary school, we fix them up for North Street, get them ready, right? Not just in terms of academics, but how to behave, you know, trying to, you know, Bishop Gibson and our Christian young men, you know, to, you know, get them ready. Now that I'm at North Street, there's a different kind of conditioning. We have to prepare them now to go out
The
into
world.
work, university. So by then, by after Melbourne, they would have come with a certain type of behavior. So it's a different type of disciplining that we have to do.
Yep.
And we just get them ready because we want their grades to be good. Boys tend to need a lot of chances, a lot of, you know, we have to hover around them, we have to push them a little harder to get them to achieve their true potential. You know what I mean?
Yep, definitely.
So
Definitely.
no
Now,
matter
one of the
what.
things, one of the things I saw recently is when I was there a couple of weeks ago, there's a sign on the gate. And that's the awareness that I love. There's a sign on the gate, and I don't remember the verbatim of it, but the sign was clearly saying that if you're not dressed appropriately, you're not passing this gate. And I remember we going over to Melbourne one morning, and I think Marlon, you didn't come with me that morning, and I saw a young man going the opposite way. So I pull over and I say, "Hey, where you going?" Him said, "Them send me home." I said, "Why?" And him said, "My attire." And to me, he looked like he was fine, but I realized his pants was a little bit lower, but his belt was proper on this Louis this and Louis that. And I said it had to be the belt why they sent him home. But otherwise, he was wearing a nice, clean black shoe, shirt tucked in. But I was like, that was impressive. So one of the things I do when I'm over by the school as well is we try to make the guys you know, wear the V. And I realize there's some boys that they have pants on without button. So as much as them try to put the belt on if the pants not going anywhere because there's no button. So there's about 5 guys last week. I'm saying, where's your button? Like, how does the button gone off the pants? So I encourage you, you know, KC old boys, if you're in town, man, swing by the school. Just help the staff when we talk about the grooming and what it looks like. Because we know in the corporate world we can't show up like that. So I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing it. And I can say as an old boy, I support it 100%.
Why, thank you.
And VP Quallo, you see, you flow real nice in terms of how you explain things, because I really had a question for you that you answered already, because I wanted to know what was the difference as a VP in terms of how you handle the students at Melbourne in comparison to North Street. And I can appreciate the fact that you are preparing them for when they come over Melbourne to enter high school and to start to act more mature. Whilst on the other side of the fence, you're making sure they're at the level of maturity to go out into the real world and succeed. So that is really good. So, but one of the things VP Brown stated when we spoke to him was that one of the lessons he learned was that he gave a recent case, not in details, of a student that got either expelled or suspended. But when he dove deep into the matter, he said that, you know, there were indicators, there were signs, but had we had asked questions, deeper, more questions, we could have probably saved this student. What is your approach with that sort of thing in terms of, we know that boys coming in are not from the wealthiest families. There are a lot of garrison, single parent home. And we try our best to try and save as many. But what is your approach to this when it comes to the boys?
All right, so with my dean hat on, as well as my VP hat, it is always very heartbreaking when we have to separate with a student. It's something that our headmaster, he dwells on it. You know what I mean? When we have to separate with a student. Now, when we have to separate with a student, it would be after recording and documenting ways that we have put in and tried to save him.
Yeah.
That's the heartbreaking part.
Yeah.
Okay. So as dean at the time, my responsibility was to make sure that all of that was documented on his record.
Yeah.
So that when it gets to the board level, you know what I mean? They can say, well, just looking at this record,
Yeah.
we can see where the school did everything, including the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So that's the first part. And when I say including the kitchen sink, I mean things like getting psychiatric
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
assistance, using government social networks
Mm-hmm.
to help them.
Mm-hmm. And speaking to the
Meaning that
parents as
not
well.
just guidance, no. We have our guidance team.
Mm-hmm.
Our guidance team is very good.
Yes.
And has
Yes.
always been, my mother being
Yes.
a part of that team many, many years ago. Our guidance team is very good. So guidance is there, but separate and apart from internally, we have our psychiatrists who work with us. And as I said, social organizations that work with us. And all of that has to be documented. But I have been in a few of those board meetings, and the one thing I can tell you is that it boils down to safety.
Mhm.
It boils down to safety of staff, of students.
Yeah.
And once it has been deemed that your presence here brings
Yes.
a safety issue
Yeah.
to this
Oh
institution,
my.
that's when we will have to separate.
Separate.
So it's not willy-nilly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And trust me, you must have all documentation in place
Yeah.
to show the board, headmaster first, and then he will make a recommendation based on the information, then the board, and then we all have a sit-down talk. And then after the decision is made, and usually, the decision is made to make sure that school remains safe for the majority.
And that's very good, because I
Yes.
assume
Yes.
this is just following along the lines of policy, because what you don't want is to have separation and then somebody comes approaches it with a legal matter, and then it's like egg on your face. You have to retract and take the student back, knowing that even though there might have been a breach in terms of procedure, you still have a person there that is really making the space unsafe.
Yep.
So,
Well,
so I
that's
do
why
understand.
that's
Yeah.
used, because even though we can prove everything, they do have the right to appeal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the ministry will approach us. And so we must have our ducks in a row.
Yes. Yeah.
That is good. So I throughout all this process, I know that the focus is on the student as well. When do you get the parent involved or the guardian?
No, parents are involved at every
Every
juncture,
step.
because on record, you must have that the parent is aware,
Okay.
parent is involved at every step, especially when we're going to be using the external
Yes. Resource.
assistance of a psychiatrist
Yes.
Because they have to
or one
approve of
these
that as
social,
well.
right. The
Okay.
parent either has to go with them
Yeah.
or sign off. Even in terms of our own internal counseling, parents must be aware, must sign off, and sometimes our guidance counselors will ask them to be a part. And sometimes the guidance department has to go out and find them, have to go out and, thank God for GPS. You have to go out,
And
find
the
where they
parent.
live, sit
Yeah.
in the living rooms, try to
Yeah.
find out. You understand? Yes. So parents are heavily involved, must be. And sometimes it takes some amount of cajoling and pushing to get parents. And some parents are not here, they're abroad. And the guardians sometimes are grandparents. I think we've now reached great grandparents. And
Wow.
sometimes they are not able.
Yeah.
But of course, being Fortis and being KC, sometimes we're able to find a mentor, we're able to find a sponsor. When we have to separate with you, it simply means that there was just no other option. And we've tried all, including, as I said, the kitchen sink.
And I can appreciate that, Madam Quallo. So you know, these things, because it's good to see that the process has evolved over the years, because one of the comical things we get when we do these podcasts, when we interview old boys, they will tell us, boy, Marlon and Pete, me get suspended for all 3 days. My mother and father don't know, because every
Yeah.
man we put on my
Yeah, we
uniform
close that.
I left the house like me
Yeah.
gone to school.
School. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
you know, we did not have those systems. You
Yes.
expect that back then, probably, well, you didn't have cell phones and not everybody have a landline, and you could, your mother send telegram or post, whatever. So the whatever disciplinary or punitive action that was taken, you expect the child to go home and explain to their parent or guardian. And they don't do that. They just turn up when they're expected to be back at school.
Yep. Yep.
So that is the big thing. So it's really good to hear that. My next question, Madam Quallo, is when you have these, I'll put you on the spot. How successful are our approaches of intervention when it comes to these wayward students? Because I don't assume that we have a high rate of expulsion or suspension. So what is that like for us?
Okay, well, you just answered your own question in that we don't have a high rate of separation. We do have a low rate of separation. And the reason for that, as I said, is that we focus mainly on intervention. And why we do this is because it works.
Yes.
It works. And as I said before, if we have to separate with you, it's because we've decided that you pose a safety risk for the staff and students. But our intervention, as I said, is not now it start, is long time that Kingston College has had this as part of their culture. It's part of our culture to get involved with our students and bring them back as best as we can. And as you said earlier, our population of students are the brightest from the inner city, right? Our children, our students here are quite bright, okay? But sometimes community, we have to fight with community. It's not now, it's been forever, okay? And so we put on our armor and we are in the fight. Every teacher that comes, when we have our new teacher orientation, we let them know a couple of things. Number one, they're boys, not girls. Boys and girls learn differently.
Yes.
Right? And the next thing is that they're bright, coming from communities where they may not be as refined as we would hope them to be. And so we have to push through all of what we see there to get to the intellect. And yeah, you know, it works for the most part. Our graduation is always such a pleasure to see some of them who we never thought was going to make it. And they go up there and the teachers crying, parents crying, crying. And we're also emotional because we knew how much hard work it took to get them there. So we're willing to do it, and we do it, you know, as a matter of our job, as a matter of, you know, what we know we're supposed to do.
That's very good, Madam Quallo. So we've spoken about support from the school itself, the teachers, parents, and so forth, the ministry. So another big topic for us is support from the old boys. How has that been in your aspect? It may be a touchy subject. You're going to probably crush some people can with your response, but we need to know, truthfully, what is your opinion on that? Are there any gaps that you think that the old boys still need to cover? Because I know that they're doing a lot of work, because as we speak to the different presidents of the chapters and everybody and thing, but you know, just to hear it from you as well, it's not to get in any trouble, gentlemen, don't trouble Madam Quallo at all, but she's just going to respond to this truthfully. Go ahead, ma'am.
Listen, I try to remain in the realm of the positive. Okay. And remember that my father is an old boy and my brothers are
Yes.
old boys.
Yes.
And for all intents and purposes, I could have been an old boy.
Boy, your answer gonna sound like a true politician. You know. Go on, James. Look at hear you.
That's what I mean. That said, I've been here for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I have old boys who are friends of mine,
Mm-hmm.
where, when we had our sixth form association,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I do have friends from there who are KCO boys.
Mm-hmm.
But in every organization, you know how it goes. You're gonna have those who do work and you have those who, may, may not do as much work. But since I've been here, I could never have a complaint about KC old boys
Woo!
who have just given generously, donated not only money, but
Yeah,
time,
time.
mentorship. I mean, I have to stay in the realm of gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I will remain. I'm not going to go any further than that. We are very grateful to have the Old Boys Association treat us so well.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing could beat COVID,
Oh,
where they stepped up big time during
nice.
COVID, where we had so many challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, computers came, tablets came, wipes,
Yeah,
masks,
yeah. I remember hearing
Yeah.
name it.
the reach out to cry out for getting tablets,
Listen,
getting a lot of stuff in, and well, we all donated as best as we could with whatever
there's
we can. So that's really good to hear.
Yeah, there's too much good for me to
Mm-hmm.
focus on anything
Mm-hmm.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's lots of negativity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say no to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I could not focus on that when the good is so overwhelming. So
Excellent.
overwhelming. Yes, it is.
Excellent.
And that's
Excellent.
just a fact. It's documented.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. I tell you, Madam Quayle, I get a tad bit of goosebumps when I hear them things then, so I can appreciate that. So,
It's true.
Yeah.
I would not be fair. And as I
mhm,
said, my leadership, I try to be as fair
Yes.
as
And
I
you said it
can.
earlier.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, so
Yep.
I would
Yep.
not be fair. I
Yes.
would not be fair if I didn't make that comment. It's just too, and from every year group you can think of, the younger ones coming in to help us with subject areas. I know for me, for my subject area back in the day, my younger French
French
student
students.
who did up to Cape level would come to help with CSEC. We have the older ones who would come in with time, some with money, and
Mhm,
of course our more senior ones who will come in with time and money as well.
mhm.
But I could never. It would be very unfair of me not to say that the support is overwhelming especially for the students. I can proudly say that there's a scholarship here for any type of student.
And yes.
If
Yes.
you're
Excellent.
a sports person, but you're not too bright, you can get a scholarship.
Yep.
If you're not a sports person, but you're not too bright, you can get a scholarship. If you're a sports person and you're bright, you
You're
can
right.
get
You
a
can get that
scholarship.
scholarship.
If you're
Yeah.
bright and you can play sports,
So you
yeah.
can
If
get
it's
that
schools
scholarship.
challenge, rugby, doesn't matter. Because
Yeah.
what happened is that you have Casey old boys who come and say to me, when I came here, I never
I
saw
did.
bright. So
Mhm.
I want to give a scholarship for somebody who is like
Yeah.
me, who
Yeah.
Yeah.
never saw
Yeah.
bright. You
Yep.
Yeah.
understand
Yep.
what I mean? There's
Yep.
a scholarship here for everybody, and they fund and support our guidance
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
department.
Man.
So
Nice.
So
Nice.
can't complain about it.
But hold on,
that's
Marlon, hold on, because my cheeks are hurting, so I have to speak, right? That's why I have to work the cheeks. They're hurting because I'm enjoying this. So here's a question that I want to ask that probably Marlon was going to ask, right? That we ask all our guests. And you shared so much gem around your journey, but I want you to find probably one or two moments between the age of 4 up to today that you would consider your highlight memorable moment of whether it's Melbourne or North Street.
Wow. I think my finest moment here was when I was walking down the aisle in the chapel to be married.
Wow.
Our chapel.
Yes.
Oh,
Can't
you
beat
say?
that.
Yeah, how you mean, man?
But let me ask this though, because I'm going to be shameless. Were you married to a KC old boy?
I'm not
Jeez.
married to a KC old boy.
Oh,
Sorry.
At least you can't down on North Street come marry him, though. At least we take that. At least you can't down on North Street come marry him. So big up, sir, whoever you are.
why,
Congratulations
madam?
again. But at least you can't down on North Street come. Me know everything in the house purple. So whichever school him go, him can do that on the west side. But everything in the house purple.
Boy, Madam Quayle, your perfection dropped by an inch. Nah, tell a lie. But it's all right. It's all right. So the next question, since you've mentioned that, Madam Quayle, is there's a difference between a male working in your role and a lady working in your role. How have you managed with your personal life? Because VP Brown say when him come school, him a walk the grounds, him a do everything, and then him go home, go to school work. So, how have you managed over the years? From teacher, coordinator, dean of affairs, head of department, and now
And
VP.
taking on more.
How have you managed that?
Okay, so I'm a troubleshooter by nature.
Yes.
And one of my skills is organization.
Ah, yes, I see it. I
Yeah.
see it.
And so when I was younger and unmarried, I had lots more time.
The term is single. The term is single. Me think we're around the same age. We can't say single. We not forgo the modern unmarried single. But we understand.
I should guess you talk to Casey, man.
Right. So I had more time then. However, on getting married, on the female point of view, home and family life is a part of, you are the one who organizes home and family life. Okay. And so I knew that I had to make adjustments in order for me to have the balance of work and home. Okay. And then when my son came, then, of course, you have to do some more juggling. So I just tried to be as organized as I could. When I became vice principal, well, even before I became vice principal, my husband and I had that discussion. And he was very encouraging and said, go ahead, apply. I think you can do it. And I said, all right, if I do get the job, then we're now going to have to reorganize. You know what I mean? So you have to always be prepared to have, and the good news is I have a husband that is very supportive of my career. And
Yes, I can
so
hear
I
it.
can sit and I can discuss with him things. And sometimes we quarrel and fight and say, no, 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 no. But we try to come to compromise. We always do. And yeah, and so that's what we do. We communicate, we try to preempt some problems and issues, see how best we can, sort those out before they actually happen. However, of course, that's not life. Life comes with its surprises.
Yes.
So when they come with the surprises, we try to have discussions and we try to organize. And so the decision was that I would come in very early. So I am here 6:30 every
morning.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, Pete, I could attest to that based on the conversation I had with Madame Quayle, where she asked that we have this session with her at 6:30 in the morning. I said, Madame Quayle, 6:30 is when I'm driving out with my girls to go to school. I don't know if my brother know what 6:30 looks like in the morning, so we're gonna have to adjust this. So I appreciate that she made that adjustment for us.
Yes.
But that is good. That is really good.
Yes.
So With all that said, Madam Quallo, we ask that you wrap up your story with us with two ways. One, to wish Casey happy 100, and secondly, to leave a positive message for for the current student body and the members of your staff, their administrative, ancillary, academic, and then even for the future viewers of this podcast. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Well, of course, happy Fortis birthday. It's 100 years. Kingston College, my rock, my home away from home, place that I work. I grew up, places I grew up here. I am so pleased to be a part of the administration in this our 100th year. Be following in the footsteps, especially of one of my mentors, Mr. Johnson, Ivan Wally Johnson.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
For the students, we have gone through a challenging journey. Our students here are coming back from having been away from school for a little while in COVID. And with a true Fortis spirit, they did not yield. And they are working really hard for us to get back to our pre-COVID excellence. And we're trying to make sure we get it done for this 100th anniversary. But to the staff, I just want to really, really thank them for their hard work, especially as we had to prepare for an inspection by the National Inspectorate. The results are not final, but I have to say that the officials that came said they really had a good experience here. And that's 100% attributed to the staff. And so in our 100th year, we are looking for the official announcement of our excellence from the National Inspectorate. We are looking forward to the return to excellence by our students.
Yes.
Because, no matter how we fall, we will not yield, and we will definitely get back to winning ways. Okay, so we have the Manning Cup. Looking forward to the Mortimer Geddes. And we will definitely continue, because that's just who we are. We are winners.
Thank you. So there's something that just struck me a while ago, Madam Quallo, that the graduating class of this year would have been the boys that started in COVID.
So these boys spent grade 6 and grade 7 at home. Yes.
Yeah. So this year would have been call it the COVID batch. So this is really a special group of students as well across the island. But for us in particular, it's something we have to recognize as well, because it's the COVID graduates we have now for this year.
Wow, interesting.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Quallo. It was a pleasure. I've been anticipating this for so long, and I'm not disappointed one bit. I get an inch of disappointment, I'm gonna tell you already. But the mere fact that you brought that reverence inside the Fortis halls and all of that, I'm accepting of that.
Yes.
Slightly heartbroken, but I'm accepting of that. But God bless him. Go ahead, Pete.
But there you have it, guys. Trust me, another cheek-breaking session. Miss Madam VP Coelho from North Street, the French teacher, the organizer, and I've never heard of anyone join Casey from the age of 4, but she's proven it. Since the 1976, her mom joined the staff and she's been visiting the actual location. Her dad went to Casey. Her brothers went to Casey. And she said, you know what? As a girl, I couldn't go Casey, but I go next. And she went to St. Hughes. Oh my gosh. When we talk about Casey, I don't think no old boy top this story. Every old boy have to hear this story because I don't think them know this. Because we have not yet met anyone. Well, that's not true. There's one old boy will say before him born, his father went to KC and actually picked up a book. Remember that one, Marlon? And then his father said he has to go to KC. So he's the only unborn one that we know of that was already, assigned to go to KC. But when we talk about the things that you brought to the school and we talk about how you're just connecting, a woman that says she cannot complain about anything that the old boys have done, even though we know life is unbalanced. That is why Kingston College is what it is today, because of the leadership that you exhume and that you provide. Thank you, Madam Coelho. On behalf of the 1925 and Beyond podcast, it's been a pleasure. We appreciate you. Keep up the great work, but we have to end the podcast like we always done. Like we said earlier, you don't have to say it, but you can join us with the greatest motto of all institutions ever.
Madam Coelho, but
all right?
If you want to.
We're normally prepared by saying this, and we learned this on the podcast. One Fortis brother says, it's not Fortis cheers or Fortis always. It is Fortis then, Fortis now, and Fortis forever. And it goes like this. Fortis,
Cadere,
CEDRE, none Potest. The brave
may fall,
but never yield.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Coelho. We appreciate you. What good. I'll see you in a couple of days. Cheers. And on behalf of the team, we say thank you. See you at the next session.
All right, then.